Have you ever found yourself wondering what truly unfolds, behind the opaque curtains of power? Far beyond the digital chatter we're all so accustomed to, deep within the world of intelligence.
Hmm.
What if the most sophisticated networks weren't just lines of code or encrypted signals, but incredibly physical, tactile operations playing out right under our noses?
They're a pretty startling thought, isn't it?
It really is. Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a realm that, well, at first glance, it might seem like something ripped straight from a spy novel.
Absolutely. A fascinating, almost unbelievable world of intelligence tradecraft.
We're going to explore how critical information can be passed and how targets can be meticulously controlled through these incredibly clever, often very analog means.
Yeah, we'll uncover the ingenious, sometimes psychological solutions they use in these high-stakes environments, and maybe even dig into the surprising technical and economic reasons behind why these physical networks operate the way they do.
Our primary guide for this deep dive, the source that really pulls back the curtain for us, is a revealing account titled Intelligence, Tradecraft, and Analog Networks.
Right, and that's supported by details from Volume 2, The Bizarro State, and also Oil and Gas, Architects of the Bizarro State.
These sources offer a unique, almost first-hand perspective on tactics that frankly sound like pure fiction.
They really do.
Mhm.
Yet they're described as very real, very current methods.
Now, these sources, they frequently refer to something called the Bizarro State and an organization known as the Union. For our deep dive today, it's pretty crucial we understand what these terms represent, at least according to the sources.
Definitely. So the Bizarro State, as it's described, isn't a recognized country, right? It's presented as this clandestine parallel state apparatus that operates invisibly within and alongside legitimate governments.
Like a hidden network exerting control.
Exactly. A deep, hidden network exerting control and influence globally. And the Union is the specific term the sources use for the overarching clandestine organization that orchestrates these operations.
So like the operating entity of this Bizarro State.
Pretty much. Described as a shadowy conglomerate of intelligence, financial, political power, all rolled into one.
Okay, so our mission today is to unpack these clandestine methods, try to understand the precise logic behind them, and explore the broader implications of such intricate physical networks.
Get ready for some truly mind-bending insights, maybe, into a world hidden in plain sight.
We're about to pull back the curtain on a reality that, well, it challenges maybe everything we thought we knew about clandestine operations. So without further ado, let's begin our deep dive into the fascinating world of analog networks.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's set the stage for our first truly unsettling insight. Imagine you have an operative, right? Deeply embedded, let's say, as a romantic interest in a target's life.
Okay, classic scenario.
Right. Tensions are incredibly high. Authorities might already be watching, maybe sniffing around, and you need to get critical information to your agent without any direct contact whatsoever.
Yeah, that's the tough part. No calls, no texts, no drops, nothing obvious.
How do you possibly do this safely without risking the exposure of your entire operation? It sounds impossible, doesn't it?
It really does.
The source describes this exact problem, specifically mentioning a target named Ronaldo J. Aguar Marcano. Apparently, he was actively trying to contact federal authorities, the FBI.
So the heat was definitely on.
Exactly. Even with the target's house supposedly wired and all the surveillance they had in place, the network couldn't be 100% sure he hadn't succeeded in getting someone's attention.
So any direct move could blow back.
Right. If someone were watching, any overt or direct attempt to pass information to an operative like Penelope Suarez, who was posing as his romantic interest and running with him in a park, apparently would immediately risk uncovering the whole thing.
The entire intricate operation, yeah, it's the classic espionage problem, isn't it?
Ick. Yeah.
Communicating in a high-risk, high-scrutiny environment when any detectable action could compromise everything you've built.
Precise.
What's truly fascinating here, though, and indeed what makes the source admit that these people are, quote, geniuses, is the sheer ingenuity in solving exactly that problem.
Okay, so what's the solution?
Well, the solution isn't about, sneaking in a message or passing a dead drop in the usual sense. It's about leveraging fundamental human psychology and the element of surprise to make the target themselves the unwitting messenger.
Wait, the target delivers the message? How?
The technique, as described, is genuinely brilliant in its simplicity and effectiveness. The core mechanism is disarmingly straightforward, yet profoundly impactful.
Okay.
While the target and the operative are together in a public place, It could be a casual run in a park, like with Penelope, or maybe shopping, or just walking somewhere specific. The network orchestrates the sudden appearance of a body double.
A body double, like a look-alike.
Not just a look-alike,
Yeah.
an uncanny, almost identical resemblance of someone extremely important and emotionally significant to the target, like a parent or a former partner. And this double is brought into very close proximity, often less than 10 feet away, to ensure maximum psychological impact.
Okay, that's genuinely unsettling, the psychological gambit. What makes the human brain so susceptible to this? That it triggers such an involuntary, exploitable reaction?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, as you said. The target, confronted with this uncanny resemblance, so shocked by this unexpected encounter, they instinctively exclaim something out loud.
Like what?
Something like, "Look, that's my father," or "My God, that man is identical to my father." It isn't a conscious reasoned act. It's an involuntary gut-level reaction to extreme, sudden surprise.
A short circuit.
Your brain, as the source describes it, just has a short circuit. There's no time for deliberation. You don't think, you just react.
Yeah.
And that visceral, uncontrollable verbal reaction is precisely what the network exploits.
It preys on our fundamental wiring, like pattern recognition gone haywire.
Exactly. When you're confronted with something so uncannily familiar, yet completely out of context, it creates this momentary cognitive dissonance, that short circuit. We're wired to process novel threats or, extreme coincidences instantly, often overriding conscious thought.
So it's not just a clever trick, it's like a deep manipulation of perception.
It really is, making the target's own senses and emotions the weakest link in their security in that moment.
And that reaction is the signal.
And that involuntary exclamation, that verbal shock, is the prearranged signal to the operative. The actual meaning could be anything, really, depending on what specific piece of intelligence or instruction the network needs to convey at that moment.
So the operative knows what it means beforehand.
Right. The operative, Penelope in this specific instance, would be pre-briefed. She'd know that if the target acts genuinely surprised like this, points out an identical-looking person, it carries a specific pre-assigned meaning.
Like what? Activate something. A warning.
Could be anything. An instruction to activate, a warning, maybe even just a simple confirmation that something else is in motion. But the undeniable power lies in its deniability for the network.
Because they didn't do anything directly to the agent.
Exactly. And crucially, the target's unwitting participation makes them the conduit.
They become the messenger without even knowing it.
Precisely. This method effectively bypasses the need for any direct, traceable, or overtly observable communication between the network and its agent. It's a remarkable fusion of psychological insight and operational necessity.
This sounds almost too wild to be true, doesn't it? But the source provides a very specific, detailed case study that kind of brings this chilling concept to life. The introduction of a new agent, Francisco Castillo, to Penelope Suarez.
Right, and the background context here is crucial to understand why they need such an elaborate method.
So Penelope, as we mentioned, was the operative deeply entangled with the target, Reynaldo. However, her effectiveness was apparently significantly reduced. When information about her alleged partner, a guy named Alvin Cantero Mena, described as a Cuban intelligence officer involved in catfishing operations, was uncovered and posted online. This was around October or November 2024.
And this exposure, revealing Alvin living right next door to Penelope, forced him to be moved out of the operation. The source actually says Alvin was essentially catfishing the target.
Catfishing the target, using Penelope's situation.
Yeah, leveraging his intimate knowledge of Penelope and intelligence files he apparently had from SEBIN.
SEBIN, that's the Venezuelan intelligence service, right?
That's right, the Bolivarian National Intelligence Service, which just highlights the level of state infiltration we're potentially talking about here, using state resources for these ops.
So with Alvin gone, Penelope lacked the deep intel he provided.
Exactly. Her value to the network diminished considerably without his input.
Okay, so the network has a gap. They need a new partner for Penelope.
Precisely. And they chose this Francisco Castillo. Now, Francisco wasn't some newcomer. He was described as a long-time, highly capable intelligence gatherer.
And get this, apparently, a childhood friend of the target.
Incredible, isn't it? The source even mentions the target's own father had been Francisco's pediatrician.
That shows a truly insidious, decades-long level of infiltration, weaving agents into the very fabric of a target's personal history.
It really does. But the operational problem remained. How do you introduce Francisco to Penelope securely? especially in this high-risk environment where any direct meeting could be
You
compromised.
couldn't just hand her a photo or arrange a chance encounter.
Too risky, too conventional. Could easily be intercepted or look suspicious, jeopardizing the entire operation.
And this, according to the sources, is exactly where the body double came into action, just as the tradecraft described.
The sources detail how, during one of Penelope and the target's routine runs in the park behind Penelope's house, a body double of Francisco was deployed.
And the quality of the double.
Apparently astonishing. The craftsmanship was so impressive, so precise in its detail, that the target, who had known Francisco for 40 years, was genuinely unsure if it was truly him. He mentioned the level of detail that they applied on the makeup and whatever it is that they do.
Wow. And the double was positioned close?
Yeah, maybe 10 feet away, positioned perfectly, intentionally not reacting to the target's presence.
Which would only heighten the confusion.
Exactly. Heightened the shock, created that crucial short circuit.
So the target reacts.
Indeed. And the signal exchange was meticulously executed, really a testament to the network's precision. The target, genuinely shocked by the double's appearance and his unexpected lack of recognition, this man he'd known for decades, instinctively grabbed Penelope's arm
Okay.
and exclaimed, "Penelope, look, that man is exactly like Francisco."
And that was the signal.
That act, driven by sheer surprise and psychological manipulation, served multiple critical purposes for the network. First, obviously, it gave Penelope a clear, undeniable visual identification of Francisco. She now knew exactly who she was looking for. No ambiguity.
Got it. Visual ID confirmed. What else?
Second, the source speculates that the double's attire, his clothing, accessories, whatever, could have subtly pre-briefed Penelope on how Francisco would dress for a later random public approach.
You mean like he'd show up at the grocery store dressed that way?
Possibly, maybe in specific casual wear at a store or a particular professional outfit at a coffee shop, making their eventual quote-unquote organic meeting appear entirely coincidental.
The level of planning, down to the wardrobe.
It highlights the extraordinary layers of deception in this analog tradecraft, doesn't it? Every detail is a piece of the puzzle.
The irony here is just palpable, isn't it? The target, trying to warn Penelope, or maybe just expressing his own profound shock, instead unknowingly facilitates a critical intelligence exchange for the very network that's surveilling him.
He becomes an active participant without knowing it.
It's an amazing piece of technology, or rather tradecraft, because it leverages human psychology and real-world dynamics, not just digital tools.
Absolutely. He thought he was reacting to something bizarre, inexplicable, but he was actually a pawn in a sophisticated physical intelligence play.
Makes you really question the mechanics behind everyday interactions.
It does.
And this wasn't just a one-off trick, right? The source says this happened multiple times.
That's what's reported. It wasn't a singular instance, which suggests it's a core piece of their tradecraft, something they rely on because it consistently works.
What other examples did they give?
Well, there were reported instances with a man identical to my father, described vividly by the target as a clone, apparently leading to a similar involuntary exclamation.
A clone of his father, wow.
Another time, a body double of the target's mother was supposedly deployed, again, creating shock and an opportunity for that clandestine communication.
And the most striking one.
Perhaps the most striking, was an encounter with a body double of the target's former partner. And get this, she was even walking a dog identical to the target's own dog, Danger,
No way.
and wearing a favored dress known to the target.
That's incredibly specific and creepy.
Deeply unsettling. Each of these meticulously orchestrated events, according to the source, triggered the same profound, shock-driven reaction from the target, and each served its purpose as a clandestine handshake or information transfer for the operative who was present.
So what's the big takeaway from this method then? What does it tell us?
Well, each instance really underscores the network's deep commitment to this highly specialized method. It shows its consistent effectiveness in triggering that uncontrollable, exploitable reaction.
And its usefulness for passing info covertly.
Exactly. Its utility as a clandestine handshake or an essential information transfer mechanism. It showcases a highly refined form of psychological manipulation, basically turning a target's most intimate emotional connections and their very senses against them.
They become an active, unwitting participant.
In their own surveillance and in the network's operational success. It's a testament to the sophistication and almost theatrical precision of their analog tradecraft.
Makes you question the reality you perceive, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The source even speculates on where this technique might come from.
Yeah, there's some speculation about the origin. This level of meticulous execution, the deep psychological manipulation, exploiting emotional triggers. It feels distinctly Russian, according to the source.
Like KGB or FSB tradecraft?
Perhaps. That's the suggestion. More so than, say, Chinese, Venezuelan, or Iranian methods, based on the described characteristics, the precision, the patience, the understanding of human frailty. It seems to point to a very specific lineage of intelligence operations.
Interesting. And the source suggests this could even help identify other targets.
Potentially, yes. The idea is, if you were to ask other people suspected of being targeted if they've witnessed similar uncanny encounters.
Seeing someone identical to a family member out of the blue. Exactly. Seeing someone identical to a close family member or former partner in an unexpected place, maybe even mimicking familiar behaviors. If they say yes, it could be a strong, though chilling indicator that they too are caught in this network's web.
Like a unique psychological fingerprint of their operation.
A signature mark, yeah, in this invisible theater of clandestine operations.
Okay, so we've seen how the very air around a target can be weaponized for communication using these deep psychological vulnerabilities. But this intricate dance of agents and signals, it needs a meticulously constructed stage, right?
Absolutely. The physical environment is key.
Which brings us to a really fundamental question that an informant apparently raised. It seems almost counterintuitive. If this network is so vast, if it really has, as the source claims, 50,000 people surrounding you.
A huge number.
Why do they operate with such intense, almost suffocating proximity, placing agents right next door to the target's house?
Yeah, wouldn't it be more logical, safer even, to track from a mile away
Right.
or from a park down the street, especially if they supposedly control the whole town?
Exactly. It seems to contradict conventional surveillance wisdom. The informant was asking for the technical reason behind this puzzling strategy.
It's a perfectly logical question. And the answer, maybe surprisingly, lies in foundational computer science concepts, specifically network or graph theory applied directly to physical routing.
Like the algorithms in ride-sharing apps, Uber, Lyft.
Very similar principles, yes. The source, drawing on his own experience from working on complex projects routing physical traffic, explains just how incredibly complex it is to manage physical movement in a sprawling urban environment, especially when you're trying to maintain covert, undetected surveillance.
Okay, so what's the core problem?
The core problem is the exponential expansion of possible paths.
Right.
Think about it this way. As a target simply leaves their house, right? Every intersection or corner they encounter presents multiple choices. Turn left, turn right, maybe go straight.
Depending on the layout, yeah.
Each of those simple choices exponentially increases the number of possible paths the target could take. After just one corner, you typically have, say, 2 potential paths.
Okay.
After 2 corners, that doubles to 4 possible paths. By the time you've gone through maybe 5 corners from your starting point, you're already looking at 32 distinct possible routes the target could have taken.
Wow, it grows that fast.
It grows incredibly fast.
Yeah.
This rapid geometric expansion creates a massive logistical nightmare for any surveillance operation trying to track from a distance.
That really puts the challenge into perspective. So if you're trying to track someone from, let's say, 600 feet away, several corners into their journey, the number of vehicles and agents needed to cover all those exponentially expanding possible routes would just explode quadratically, you said.
Exactly. If you're trying to pick up surveillance starting from the 4th stop,
Yeah.
you'd already need maybe 16 times more cars than if you started right when they left their garage.
And by the 5th stop.
32 times more vehicles. Just to maintain unbroken coverage, it simply doesn't scale.
Right, you can't start from a distance.
It's practically impossible for a surveillance operation to start discreetly from a distance because the resources required would quickly become unmanageable, far too visible, and prohibitively expensive.
It's not just about manpower, it's the sheer math of it.
It's the mathematical impossibility of discreetly shadowing someone from afar in a dynamic urban environment without being spotted or needing an army of cars.
Okay, so that explains why they can't track from far away. How does being close solve it?
Exactly. That's why, to keep the number of surveillance assets manageable, economical, and crucially, to avoid detection, the network is effectively obligated, almost by the laws of urban logistics, to track the target from the absolute moment they leave their garage.
The starter trigger solution, the source called it.
That's the term used, yeah. The starter trigger solution. By strategically placing agents in houses directly adjacent to the target's home.
Right next door.
Right next door, or across the street. They can ensure a small number of cars are always recruited and precisely positioned to intercept the target at the very next corner,
So they're cutting off the possibilities right away.
constantly reducing the number of possible paths back down to a manageable few. And here's the key. Agents and cars are always moving ahead of the target to intercept them at the next intersection.
Ahead of them, not behind.
Ahead. This preemptive positioning is crucial. It makes it appear that the cars aren't following, but merely going in the same direction as the target.
Ah, so it looks like normal traffic.
Much harder to detect. If a car is always sort of merging onto the road ahead of you or waiting at the next light as you arrive, it doesn't look like it's following you at all.
But coordinating that must be incredibly complex.
Oh, absolutely. This requires a sophisticated distributed computer system to plan these movements, coordinating dozens, maybe hundreds, of individuals and vehicles in real time.
And this isn't just theory, right? There's a real-world example.
Correct. We see a real-world manifestation of this, according to the source, in what's called the Lake Point Cell in Katy, Texas.
Lake Point Cell. And this involves Robert Mueller's former house.
That's the claim. Less than 200 feet from the target's home, the former FBI director Robert S. Mueller III's multi-million-dollar house is identified as a major operational hub and is given a paramilitary score of over 30,000.
Okay, hold on. A paramilitary score of over 30,000. That sounds incredibly high. For our listeners, what exactly does this score even quantify? How does the network come up with a metric like that?
It's presented in the sources as an internal network metric, right? A quantifiable assessment of location's strategic value and operational density.
So not just how many people are there.
No, it's more than that. It seems to factor in the type of assets and capabilities housed there. Things like secure communications, covert vehicle staging areas, its proximity to high-value targets, ease of discrete access and egress.
So 30,000 is significant.
Extremely. It's presented as virtually a headquarters level, indicating a robust, multi-layered command and control center, far beyond just a simple safe house.
Like a mini base hidden in suburbia.
Almost, yeah. It signifies a node capable of coordinating widespread activities and maintaining a significant operational footprint. And this house, the source notes, is part of a 3-property mini-compound.
With a secret gate.
Apparently, a secret gate for moving spy vehicles without detection, and even a dedicated high-voltage power line, which suggests critical infrastructure needs.
That's chilling. You mentioned earlier a geo-index and a hell app as the backbone of this sort of dark Uber system. These sound crucial. Can you elaborate on what those are?
Absolutely. The geo-index, as described, is far more than just a map. You should think of it as a deeply annotated, intelligence-rich digital twin of the real world.
Containing what kind of data?
Not just street layouts, but specific, clandestine intelligence. Known surveillance blind spots, safe house locations, precise vehicle staging points, maybe real-time traffic light timings, even local police patrol routes, perhaps. It's like their own secret Google Maps, but totally focused on operational utility.
And the Hell app. Sounds ominous.
It does. The sources suggest it might be an acronym, but regardless, it functions as the operational brain, the central nervous system of this dispatch system.
So it automates the tracking.
Essentially, yes. It's an automated dispatch and management system. Based on real-time intelligence flowing from the geo-index and their field agents, it predicts target movements, assigns specific agents and vehicles to intercept points, and dynamically optimizes routes to maintain that covert coverage ahead of the target.
Scaling human surveillance.
To an unprecedented level. It aims to remove human error and latency from critical operational decisions. It's the digital backbone that allows our analog forces the cars, the people, to move with such precision.
Ensuring total control.
That seems to be the goal.
So, if we connect this back to the bigger picture, this constant, unavoidable tracking, regardless of the path the target takes, it creates a situation where even though they have physical freedom, they're effectively a prisoner of war, unable to escape surveillance.
That's the term the source uses. Even if he has the freedom to walk outside his house, it doesn't matter which path he takes, they will always follow. This is the logistical reason why they must have people in those adjacent houses.
It's a calculated, resource-intensive strategy.
Designed to achieve total, inescapable physical control over an individual's movements. It transforms their immediate environment into a kind of invisible, inescapable prison.
The psychological toll of that, knowing you're constantly tracked, every move anticipated.
Must be immense.
Yeah.
It's a form of soft imprisonment, isn't it? Where your physical liberty technically exists, but your privacy, your autonomy are completely stripped away.
This brings us to another fascinating and frankly quite unsettling thought from the source. What if this massive physical surveillance system is more than just about tracking?
What do you mean?
The source describes it as an analog computer network,
An analog computer network made of cars.
powered by gas-fueled cars, moving data, which in this case means agents, information, operational instructions from house to house, agent to agent. It's a truly mind-bending concept.
Taking digital computing principles and applying them to the physical world, creating this massive, distributed gas-powered machine for intelligence and control.
It's not just surveillance, it's like an entire operational ecosystem built on physical movement.
Okay, that's a wild idea. But what's truly fascinating here, that model holds, is the core strength that underpins this entire network, this analog computer.
Which is?
The Union, this clandestine organization, leverages its extraordinary control or influence, at least over a huge chunk of the world's oil reserves. Countries like Venezuela, Iran, Russia, and to a significant extent, China.
So they use oil money to fuel the cars that power the network.
Essentially, yes. And the irony is stark, and maybe intentional. Unlike digital networks powered by cheap, fast electricity, this analog network runs on gasoline, which is slower, comparatively, for data transfer, and certainly not cheap, either financially or environmentally.
So how do they improve performance, like bandwidth and speed?
To increase its bandwidth, its capacity for surveillance and intelligence gathering, and to lower its latency, the speed and responsiveness of their information transfer, they simply deploy more cars.
More cars equals more power.
More vehicles mean more capacity for surveillance, faster message delivery between nodes, more extensive physical reach. It's how they systematically overcome the inherent physical limitations of their analog system. Just add more gasoline-powered nodes.
Okay, but here's where it gets even more interesting, right? As they deploy more cars, they naturally consume more oil.
Logically, yes.
But here's the truly ingenious and chilling twist, according to the source. Since they, or rather the states involved in this union, are often the producers and refiners of that very oil. Think state-owned companies in Venezuela, Iran, Russia, China.
Right.
This increased consumption directly boosts their own economies and revenues.
Ah, so it's a closed loop. They spend money on gas, but the money flows back to them or their allies.
It's described as a perfectly designed, self-reinforcing financial incentive embedded right into their operational design. The source explicitly states they coordinate the agents to inject artificial pressure on the markets of the gas to increase the gas prices to make more money.
Whoa, hold on. They're saying the network deliberately manipulates gas prices.
That's the claim. Not just benefiting from consumption, but actively manipulating the market. This strategy, the source alleges, helps figures like Diosdado Cabello launder vast sums through inflated prices, and it directly strengthens their allied state economies.
So it's a profound win-win for the network, as described. More cars mean more surveillance,
Which means more gas consumption.
which directly equals more revenue for their patrons or allies. It's described as a beautifully designed, self-reinforcing financial and operational cycle.
That simultaneously strengthens their economies and, by extension, potentially weakens the democratic states they operate within through that economic pressure.
Wow. That's a staggering claim. And this isn't described as a new development, is it? It goes back.
Not new at all, according to the sources. It's framed as a decades-old strategic alliance. The origins of this bizarro state aren't in Silicon Valley tech, but in the gritty oil fields of the 20th century.
So the foundation wasn't tech, it was oil.
That's the argument. The foundational alliance, based on the source's analysis, wasn't initially this unholy trinity of tech and political figures, but an earlier coalition between major Western oil companies and authoritarian, resource-rich states like Venezuela.
Okay, when is this happening?
Back in the 1990s, as figures like Hugo Chavez and Diosdado Cabello were consolidating power in Venezuela, they leveraged their control over the nation's huge oil reserves. In exchange for drilling rights and access to these lucrative resources, they apparently demanded, quote, a little help from these big global oil companies.
And this help wasn't just money.
Far from it. It allegedly came in the form of using the company's global infrastructure, their logistics, their legal teams, their international presence as a sprawling, invisible cover.
A cover for what?
To create false identities, generate fake jobs, secure visas, even establish entire residential communities for network agents, all under the guise of legitimate corporate operations.
That would explain why traditional oil hubs are often mentioned as network hubs.
Exactly. Places like Houston, Texas, or Calgary, Alberta.
Yeah.
It provides a historical context for why they might be major network operational centers.
So, Crucial point here.
Hmm.
The PayPal mafia, or the tech figures involved,
Right.
they didn't create this network, according to this account.
No, they joined it. They
Oh.
joined a pre-existing, deeply entrenched alliance, adding the digital layer, the geo-index, the Hell app that transformed a decades-old physical conspiracy into a truly global, highly efficient operational network.
They brought the scalable brain to an already powerful existing body.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so what are the significant implications we can draw from this revelation? This whole design, while described as beautiful in its ingenuity and its self-reinforcing nature,
Mm-hmm.
it might also contain its own greatest weakness.
How so?
The fundamental reliance on physical cars, tangible regulated assets. That could be a critical vulnerability, couldn't it?
You mean if you could somehow target the cars?
The source suggests exactly that. If these vehicles could be systematically identified and removed from circulation, maybe through new laws, targeting suspicious vehicle ownership patterns, or highly targeted enforcement actions.
Like coordinating internationally.
Perhaps an expanded Interpol mandate, specialized UN task forces, something to identify and impound vehicles associated with known network activities. This isn't just about traffic tickets, it's about disrupting their core operational infrastructure.
So if you dry up their ability to move data, their agents, their equipment.
You effectively starve the network, or at least severely hinder it. The economic pressure alone, if their gas sales are truly tied to these operations, as the source claims, could be devastating for their state sponsors.
It's a physical Achilles heel hiding in plain sight.
In a network that otherwise seems to operate with such impunity, it's almost like a form of economic warfare fought on the roads themselves. A really novel concept.
Okay, let's try to pull this all together. Today, we've taken a really deep dive into this almost unbelievable, yet reportedly very real, world of analog intelligence tradecraft.
It's been quite a journey.
We started by exploring that profound psychological manipulation using body doubles, ingeniously turning targets into unwitting messengers.
Turning their own reactions against them.
Then we moved to the sophisticated Uber routing logic, which
Yeah.
explains the need for that constant, almost suffocating close proximity surveillance, why they have to be next door.
The tyranny of logistics, really.
And finally, we connected these intricate dots to the chilling realization, according to the sources, that this entire analog network is powered and funded by a self-reinforcing cycle tied directly to global oil consumption.
A system potentially dating back decades to a historical oil and gas alliance.
We've seen how what sounds like pure fiction can be described as a very real, very complex, and deeply unsettling system of control.
It really raises an important question, doesn't it? Especially when you consider this paradox of control. What happens when a system designed for total, absolute control becomes so intrinsically linked to its own perpetuation?
Where its strengths become its vulnerabilities.
Exactly. The sheer scale of this operation, how it can apparently function in plain sight, yet remain hidden by its very audacity. It truly is, if the sources are accurate, a testament to a new, maybe terrifying type of criminal organization.
One that manipulates not just tech, but psychology, economics, even urban geography.
The level of detail and coordination required is just staggering. It paints a picture of a world far more complex and perhaps controlled than most of us can really imagine.
Indeed. So here's a final thought for you, our listeners. If such sophisticated analog networks exist, leveraging everything from the subtleties of human psychology to the vast leverage of global oil markets, what other invisible hands might be shaping our reality in ways we haven't even begun to fathom?
A sobering thought.
And if the solution to understanding and perhaps even countering such pervasive systems lies in understanding their very design, their historical roots, and their logistical vulnerabilities, where do we as individuals even begin to look for the patterns in our own lives, in the movements around us?
Something to definitely mull over.
Absolutely. Something to think about until our next deep dive.